The rain had been falling for hours, and still it showed no sign of stopping. Thick sheets of water swept across the small human settlement, turning dirt paths into streams and rooftops into echoing drums. The colony had stood for 10 years on this remote world, but every storm felt like a test, and this one was heavier than any in recent memory. Aaron, a quiet technician with the habit of noticing details others ignored, stood under the awning of his workshop and watched the storm. His jacket was patched and worn, but he didn't mind the chill. He liked the sound of the rain, the way it covered the world in its rhythm. Yet tonight, the sound carried something else. Beneath the roar of water, he thought he heard faint pulses, almost like a voice carried by the storm itself. He frowned and turned his eyes toward the power relay near the settlement wall. Sparks jumped from its surface, blue and sharp, before vanishing in the rain. The machines weren't meant to do that, not even in weather like this. Aaron stepped out, boots splashing in puddles, and walked toward the flickering relay. Inside the settlement, people were safe and warm in their homes. The council had ordered everyone indoors, warning that this storm was dangerous. But Aaron was never one to sit still when something felt wrong. He placed his hand on the relay's panel, water dripping down his sleeve. The metal felt alive, as if it was humming with a strange rhythm, in tune with the storm above. "Not normal," he whispered. He pulled a small scanner from his belt and pressed it against the surface. The readings flickered wildly, too much energy for a simple lightning surge. It was as if the storm itself was feeding the machine. Aaron tightened his jaw. He had seen unusual readings before, but this was different. It felt purposeful. A sudden crash of thunder made him step back. For a moment, the sky lit up bright white, and he saw the entire settlement bathed in silver light. The fields beyond the wall bent under the force of the rain, and the distant forests swayed like dark waves. Then the light was gone, and the world returned to shadow. Aaron shook his head. Maybe he was tired, maybe he was imagining things. But deep inside, he knew he wasn't. The storm wasn't just weather. It was something else. He hurried back to his workshop, dripping wet, and pulled the scanner's data onto his console. Lines of shifting numbers filled the small screen, forming patterns he didn't recognize. They weren't random. They were too clean, too structured. Almost like a message. Aaron leaned closer, heart beating faster. "Who's sending this?" he muttered. The rain struck harder against the workshop roof, as if answering. He shut his eyes for a moment, listening to the rhythm. Once again, he thought he heard it, the faint pulses under the storm, like a code hidden in the noise. He opened his eyes and sighed. No one would believe him. The council would say he was chasing shadows, wasting time. They always told him to leave big questions alone and focus on repairs, crops, and safety. But Aaron couldn't ignore what he felt. The night dragged on. Hours passed, and the storm never weakened. Outside, lights flickered in the settlement as power grids strained. Children huddled near heaters while parents whispered about whether the storm would end by morning. Aaron, however, didn't rest. He stayed at his console, watching the strange patterns, trying to make sense of them. At last, near midnight, he pushed back from the desk and rubbed his eyes. He knew two things for certain: the storm carried more than just wind and water, and the machines around the settlement were reacting to it. If he ignored it, something worse might happen. He stepped outside once more, letting the rain soak him. The air smelled of wet soil and electricity. He stared at the storm, the endless sheets of water falling from a sky without stars. "Why are you here?" he whispered into the night. The storm gave no answer, only another clap of thunder. But Aaron's heart told him this was only the beginning. The colony thought the storm was just weather. He knew it was something else, something watching, something sending a secret no one else dared to hear. And for reasons he didn't yet understand, he knew those secrets were meant for him. The storm did not rest, and neither did Aaron. All through the night, the rain hammered the colony. Sleep had left him hours ago, replaced by a strange restlessness that kept him awake. He tried to return to his console, but the numbers and patterns on the screen only gave him more questions. His thoughts circled the same place: the storm was not natural. Something was hiding within it. When the power flickered again near dawn, Aaron decided to go back outside. The storm was still wild, though the winds had softened just enough to see further across the settlement wall. He pulled his hood over his head, fastened his jacket, and stepped out into the downpour. The settlement was quiet. Doors were sealed, windows shut tight, lights dimmed to save energy. The only sound was the rain, endless and steady. Aaron walked toward the relay near the wall again. He wanted to check if the strange surges were still there. Halfway across the muddy path, his steps froze. Through the rain, a shadow moved near the edge of the wall. Not a trick of lightning, not the swaying of trees, this was a figure. The shape was tall, wrapped in something like a cloak, though the storm whipped at it fiercely. The figure did not stumble in the mud, nor leave any clear footprints behind. It moved with a strange grace, almost as if the rain itself parted for it. Aaron's breath caught. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice half lost in the storm. The figure stopped, turned its head slightly, then continued walking. It seemed weaker now, slower, as though its strength was leaving it. By the time Aaron reached the wall, the shadow collapsed into the mud, lying still as the rain poured over it. Aaron hurried forward, his heart pounding. When he knelt beside the stranger, he saw the cloak was soaked through, heavy with water. He turned the figure gently. To his shock, the face revealed beneath the hood was not human. The skin was smooth, pale with faint glowing lines across the cheeks and forehead. The eyes were closed, but even behind the lids, he could see light flickering faintly, like stars buried beneath skin. The figure was breathing slow, but alive. Aaron's first thought was to call the council. That was what protocol demanded: report any unknowns immediately. But something inside him held him back. If he called them, they would treat this stranger as a danger. They would lock it away, maybe worse. And somehow, Aaron felt that this meeting was important, too important to lose. He looked back at the settlement. No one had seen him yet. Everyone was indoors, avoiding the storm. His decision came quickly. "Come on," he muttered, pulling the figure onto his shoulders. It was lighter than he expected, almost too light for its size. Step by step, he carried the stranger across the muddy ground and into his workshop. Inside, he laid the figure carefully on a bench and pulled the heavy cloak away. The glowing lines on its skin were clearer now, pulsing faintly in time with the rhythm of the storm outside. Aaron stood over it, chest heaving from the effort, unsure of what to do next. Minutes passed. The storm rattled the roof, and Aaron kept glancing at the door, nervous someone might notice. Then the figure stirred. Its eyes opened slowly. Aaron's breath caught again. The eyes were unlike anything he had ever seen: bright, shifting colors that seemed alive, reflecting the rain outside. For a long moment, the alien simply looked at him. Then its lips moved, and a soft, broken voice came out. "Water, storm, too strong," it whispered. Aaron leaned closer. "You can speak. You understand me?" The figure nodded faintly. "Yes. I speak. I am Myra." The name hung in the air, simple yet strange. Aaron swallowed hard. He had so many questions, but he didn't know where to start. "Why are you here?" he asked. Myra closed her eyes again, her breathing uneven. "Storm is not storm. Storm is message. I followed the call. Too far, too weak." Aaron stared, confused but fascinated. A message? The storm carrying something more than wind and water? It was exactly what he had suspected. "You're saying the storm is alive? Or, controlled?" he pressed. But Myra did not answer. Her strength was gone again, and she sank into a deep, quiet sleep. Aaron stood beside her, torn between fear and wonder. The council must not find out, not yet. Not until he understood more. He pulled a blanket over Myra and dimmed the lights in the workshop. Outside, the rain continued, steady and endless. Aaron sat down at his console, watching both the patterns on the screen and the stranger breathing softly on the bench. The storm had brought secrets. And one of them was lying under his roof now. Aaron knew nothing would ever be the same again. Morning came slowly, though the storm outside had not ended. The rain still struck the roofs and walls of the colony, steady as a drum beat that refused to stop. People moved quietly through the settlement, repairing damage where they could, checking food stores, and speaking in worried tones. To them, the storm was a problem to endure. To Aaron, it was something much more. Inside his workshop, he sat at his desk, half watching the strange readings on his console while his eyes drifted to the figure lying on the bench. Myra had not moved much since the night before. Her breathing was steady now, but her glowing markings flickered with the same rhythm as the storm. It was as if she was connected to it in ways he could not understand. At last, she stirred. Her eyes opened again, and their strange colors caught the dim light of the room. Aaron leaned forward, waiting. "You're awake," he said softly. Myra blinked, her gaze moving slowly across the workshop. "This place, human dwelling." Her voice was soft, uncertain, but clearer than the night before. "Yes. This is my workshop," Aaron explained. "I found you outside, near the wall. You collapsed." She studied him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. "You carried me here. You saved me." Aaron shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't know what else to do." He hesitated, then asked, "Why were you out there, in the storm? You could have died." Myra lowered her eyes, as though searching for the right words. "The storm is not natural. You know this." Aaron froze. Hearing her speak, the thought aloud sent a shiver through him. "Yes," he admitted. "I noticed the machines reacting. I saw the energy patterns. It felt like something was inside the storm." Her glowing markings brightened faintly, as if pleased by his words. "You hear it too?" "Few can. The storm carries signals, messages from long ago. My people called them echoes." Aaron frowned, leaning closer. "Messages? From who?" Myra's gaze lifted to meet his. "From the deep. From those who built this world before you came. They used the storms to speak, to guard, to warn. Humans think this is only weather. But it is more. It is a language written in lightning and rain." Her words settled heavily in the air. Aaron tried to take them in, but the meaning was vast, almost beyond belief. Still, he remembered the structured patterns on his console, the pulses hidden in the thunder. He had not been imagining it. "Why are you here?" he asked again, voice quieter now. Myra closed her eyes briefly, then answered, "I am a seeker. My people are few, scattered. We search for places where the echoes remain. This world is one of them. But the storms have grown too strong. They should not be like this. Something stirs them awake." Aaron thought of the surges in the power relay, the way the machines had almost seemed alive. His chest tightened. "If what you say is true, then the colony is in danger. No one here knows. They won't believe me. They'll say I'm making things up." Myra's expression softened. "Then show them. Prove the truth. You are human, but you see what others do not. That is why the storm called you." Her words struck him deeply. The storm called him. He wanted to argue, to say he was just a technician, nothing more. But inside, he remembered the way he had felt standing under the rain, the sense that something was reaching out. Before he could answer, a knock struck the workshop door. Aaron jumped, eyes darting to Myra. Quickly, he pulled a blanket over her and switched off the console. The knock came again, louder. "Aaron? Are you inside?" It was Tomasz, one of the council guards. Aaron forced his voice steady. "Yes, I'm here." "What is it?" "The council wants a report," Tomasz called through the rain. "They think the storm is damaging the grids." "You're the technician, come explain." Aaron's heart raced. "I'll be there soon," he replied, trying to sound calm. He waited until Tomasz's footsteps faded, then turned back to Myra. "They can't know about you," he whispered. "Not yet. They'll see you as a threat." Myra studied him with those luminous eyes, then nodded slowly. "I will stay hidden. But time is short." The echoes grow louder. "The storm will not stop until the truth is faced." Aaron pressed a hand to his forehead. Secrets weighed on him heavily now. He was caught between two worlds: his people, who trusted him to keep them safe, and Myra, who carried knowledge no human had ever heard. He took a deep breath. "All right. I'll keep you safe here. But you need to tell me everything you know. If I'm going to face the council, I need answers." Myra's markings pulsed brighter, like a heartbeat in the dim light. "Then listen," she said gently. "Listen to the rain, and I will show you what it is saying." The storm outside raged on, but inside the workshop, the air was filled with something new, an unseen voice carried by water and thunder, waiting to be understood. Aaron leaned closer, ready to hear the secrets that no other human had dared to believe. The storm had lasted 2 full days. By now, the settlement was restless. Food had to be rationed, power lines sparked often, and the crops outside the walls had taken heavy damage. Families gathered in the meeting hall, whispering about whether the storm would end or if it meant something worse. The council sat at the front of the hall, 5 members who guided the colony since its beginning. They were cautious, practical, and unwilling to risk mistakes. Aaron had been called to speak with them, and he walked slowly through the heavy rain toward the hall. His thoughts spun in circles. Myra was still hidden in his workshop, resting. Her words about the storm, about echoes and ancient builders, still echoed in his mind. But he could not share that with the council, not yet. When he entered, the hall grew quiet. Everyone's eyes turned to him. Aaron was not used to attention, he preferred the hum of machines to the weight of stairs. Still, he forced himself to stand straight as the council leader, an older man named Darren, leaned forward. "Aaron," Darren began, his voice calm but sharp. "You are the colony's technician. You have seen the state of our power systems. Tell us, what is happening? Why are the grids failing?" Aaron cleared his throat. "The storm is stronger than usual. The surges are unusual. I believe there's more energy in the atmosphere than normal lightning should produce." The council members exchanged looks. One of them, a woman named Mara, frowned. "You're saying the storm is different. But storms have come before. We've always endured them." "Yes," Aaron said carefully. "But this is not like the others. The energy patterns are structured. Almost like," he paused, catching himself. If he spoke too openly, they would think him mad. "Almost like something is feeding into our systems directly." Mara's frown deepened. Darren tapped his fingers on the table. "Are you suggesting sabotage?" Aaron shook his head quickly. "No. Not sabotage. Just, something we don't understand yet." The whispers in the crowd grew louder. People wanted answers, not mysteries. Another council member, Joran, leaned forward. His tone was suspicious. "You spend much time alone in your workshop, Aaron." Some say you've been acting strangely since the storm began. Are you hiding something from us? The question struck hard. Aaron forced himself to stay calm, though his heart raced. I'm doing my job, he said. I'm trying to understand what's happening. That's all. Joran's eyes narrowed, but Darren raised a hand, silencing further questions. Very well. You will continue your work. But you must report everything to the council directly. No secrets, no delays. Yes, council leader, Aaron said quietly. The meeting ended soon after. As the crowd dispersed, he felt the weight of eyes still on him. Whispers followed him as he stepped back into the rain. The council didn't trust him. And if they suspected he was hiding anything, they would search. If they found Myra, there would be no mercy. Aaron hurried back to his workshop, his boots splashing through the mud. Inside, Myra was awake, sitting on the bench with the blanket still around her shoulders. Her glowing lines were brighter now, pulsing with the steady rhythm of the storm. You are troubled, she said softly, studying his face. They don't believe me, Aaron admitted, pulling off his soaked jacket. The council thinks I'm keeping secrets. If they find you here, it will be over. They'll call you a threat. Myra tilted her head, her strange eyes calm despite his fear. Do you trust me, Aaron? The question hung heavy in the air. Aaron thought of her words, of the storm that carried a hidden voice, of the truth he had seen in the patterns himself. Slowly, he nodded. Yes. I don't know why, but I do. Then let me help you, she said. If your people will not listen, you must show them proof. The echoes are clear. With your machines, we can decode them. We can reveal the message within the storm. Aaron sat heavily at his console, running a hand through his damp hair. If I share that with them, they'll demand to know how I discovered it. They'll know I didn't do it alone. Myra placed a hand lightly on the table. Her fingers were slender, faintly glowing at the tips. Then say it was your work. Say you found the message yourself. What matters is the truth, not who speaks it. He looked at her, conflicted. She was right, yet lying to the council would only deepen their suspicion. Still, if he said nothing, the storm would continue to grow, and the colony might not survive. The rain outside grew heavier, thunder shaking the ground. Aaron felt the decision pressing down on him. He had to act soon. That night, he worked beside Myra, connecting her guidance to his scanner. She taught him how to listen differently, how to filter the storm's sound until the patterns formed clearer shapes. Slowly, words emerged from the noise, ancient signals, warnings in a language Myra translated. Guardians, she whispered as the translation came through. Machines sleeping in the deep ocean. They stir when storms rise. They are waking. Aaron stared at the screen, his chest tight. Guardians. Machines under the ocean? It was more than the council would ever believe. But it was real. He looked at Myra, her eyes reflecting the glow of the console. If this is true, the colony is in danger. The storms are just the beginning. Yes, she said. And your people must choose fear the truth, or face it. Aaron sat back, staring at the storm outside his small window. The council already doubted him. Soon, their suspicion would turn into action. He had little time left to decide whose side he was truly on. The storm grew no calmer. By the third night, it seemed almost alive, waves of thunder rolling one after another. The sea beyond the colony walls was wild and restless, as though it too had been stirred awake. Aaron had not slept much. He worked beside Myra, trying to decode more of the storm's messages. The words that appeared on his screen were broken, but Myra translated with patience. Over and over, one meaning returned: the guardian stir. Aaron's mind wrestled with questions he could not ignore. Who built these guardians? Why were they buried in the ocean? And what would happen if they fully awakened? Myra gave him only part of the answer. My people called them watchers. Long ago, they were made to protect, but they lost their masters. Now they follow only the storms. If they rise without guidance, they will not see you as friends. They will see you as intruders. Aaron's chest tightened. If the colony was seen as an enemy, what chance did they have? The next day, Myra urged him to leave the settlement. The signs grow stronger, she said. If you wish to see the truth, we must go to the coast. The guardians will not stay hidden much longer. Aaron hesitated. Leaving the colony during such weather was risky. If the council learned he had gone, suspicion would turn into open hostility. But curiosity, fear, and something deeper pushed him forward. He agreed. They left at dawn. The rain was lighter for a time, though clouds still covered the sky. The muddy path led them away from the settlement, through the wet fields and into the hills that overlooked the sea. Every step was heavy, but Aaron felt an odd pull, as if the storm itself wanted him to follow. At last, they reached the cliffs. The ocean spread wide and endless before them, gray waves smashing against the rocks below. Lightning flashed over the horizon, and the sea seemed to answer with a deep rumble, almost like a growl. Myra stood at the cliff's edge, her cloak pressed to her by the wind. Her glowing lines brightened as she lifted her face to the storm. "Listen," she whispered. Aaron strained his ears. At first, all he heard was the roar of the waves and the crash of thunder. But then, beneath it, something else, low vibrations, steady and rhythmic, like drums echoing from beneath the water. His skin prickled. "It's coming from under the ocean," he said. "Yes," Myra answered. "The guardians wake." As if on cue, the sea surged unnaturally, a wave rising higher than the rest. From its depths, shapes began to emerge, massive, metallic structures, black and silver, glistening in the storm. They rose slowly, towering above the water, their edges glowing with the same pale light that marked Myra's skin. Aaron's breath caught. "Machines," he whispered. One by one, more of them appeared, breaking through the waves. Their forms were immense, part tower, part vessel, part creature. They were unlike anything humans had built, ancient and powerful. Water cascaded down their sides as they stood against the storm, pulsing with strange energy. Myra's voice trembled, though not from fear. "They are older than my people's memory. They were placed here to guard secrets buried deep. But their purpose has twisted with time. Without guidance, they will see all life as a threat." Aaron could not look away. He felt both awe and dread. These machines could crush the colony without effort. Yet there was beauty in their design, a sense of something far beyond human creation. The ground beneath the cliffs trembled, and Aaron realized the machines were not just rising, they were moving. Slowly, they turned toward the land, toward the settlement hidden behind the hills. "No," Aaron said under his breath. His heart pounded. "If they reach the colony," Myra placed a hand on his shoulder. "There is still hope. The storms carry commands. If we can speak the language of the echoes, we may calm them. But the council must choose. Fight them or join them." Aaron swallowed hard. He could already imagine the council's reaction. They would panic, call the guardians enemies, and try to resist with weapons far too small to matter. Convincing them would be nearly impossible. But as he stared at the towering shapes in the sea, he knew Myra was right. The choice had to be made soon, or the colony would not survive. They stood together in silence, watching as lightning danced across the sky and the guardians' lights pulsed in answer. The storm was not just a storm anymore. It was a warning, a signal, and a test. Aaron turned to Myra. "If we fail to calm them, what happens?" Myra's eyes were solemn. "Then the guardians will finish what they were built for. They will erase all who do not belong." A chill ran through him, colder than the rain. He knew then that secrets were no longer hidden. The ocean had given up its silence. And soon, the entire colony would face the truth rising from beneath the waves. By the time Aaron and Myra returned from the cliffs, the storm was worse than ever. The rain beat against the settlement walls like 1,000 fists, and the winds howled through every gap. People huddled inside their homes, frightened by the unending storm. They did not yet know what Aaron had seen rising from the sea. But the council would learn soon. That evening, the meeting hall filled again. Families whispered nervously, children clung to their parents, and guards kept the doors sealed against the rain. At the front, the 5 council members sat with grim faces. They had heard reports of strange sounds near the ocean, and they demanded answers. Aaron stood before them, soaked and pale from what he had witnessed. His hands trembled as he prepared to speak. He had not told them about Myra yet. He wasn't sure if he ever could. But the truth of the Guardians could not be hidden. Darren, the council leader, leaned forward. Aaron, you were seen heading toward the coast. Against orders. What did you find? The room grew silent. All eyes were on him. Aaron took a slow breath. Machines, he said at last. Massive machines rising from beneath the ocean. They are not storms, not accidents. They are ancient guardians, waking after centuries of silence. Gasps filled the hall. Some people muttered in disbelief, others in fear. Mara, the sharp-eyed councilwoman, shook her head. Guardians. Machines under the sea? Aaron, do you expect us to believe such tales? You bring us riddles when we need solutions. It's not a tale, Aaron said firmly. I saw them with my own eyes. They rise with the storm, and they are moving toward us. If we do nothing, they will reach the colony. Joran, always suspicious, narrowed his eyes. And how do you know this? You speak with too much certainty for someone who claims to only repair machines. Aaron's throat tightened. He could not tell them about Myra, not yet. So he stood straighter, forcing his voice calm. Because I studied the signals. The storms carry messages. They are warnings. The Guardians respond to those signals. I decoded enough to understand their intent. Mara crossed her arms. And what is their intent? Aaron's voice dropped. To remove us. To erase all who do not belong. The hall erupted in cries of fear. Some shouted to prepare weapons, others demanded to flee inland. The council members exchanged uneasy looks, their calm faces finally showing cracks. Darren raised his voice above the noise. Silence. The hall quieted, though the storm outside still roared. He looked back at Aaron. If this is true, then we face a decision. Do we fight these machines, or do we attempt to reason with them? Can they even be reasoned with? Aaron hesitated, then answered, they can. The storm is their language. If we learn to speak it, we can calm them. We may even guide them. But if we raise weapons, we will only bring destruction. Mara's lips pressed into a thin line. And you claim you can speak this, storm language? Aaron swallowed. Yes. I can. The words felt heavy. He was taking Myra's knowledge as his own, and he hated the lie. But it was the only way to keep her safe and still push the council toward the right choice. The room fell into tense silence. Then Joran spoke. If he is wrong, we are doomed. If he is right, we are still at risk. Either way, Aaron is holding too much power. He hides things from us, I can see it. Whispers spread again. The people were torn between hope and doubt. Myra's words from earlier echoed in Aaron's mind, they must choose. Fear the truth, or face it? He raised his voice, louder than he ever had before. Listen to me. The Guardians are rising whether we want it or not. We cannot fight them. We don't have the strength. If we try, we will be crushed. But if we face the storm, if we learn its voice, we may survive. This is not about trusting me, it's about choosing life over fear. His words hung in the air. The storm outside thundered as if answering. Finally, Darren stood. The council will decide. The members whispered among themselves. After long minutes, Darren turned back to the people. We cannot risk a fight we cannot win. Aaron will attempt to speak with the storm. We will give him the tools he needs. But know this, if he fails, we will defend ourselves, no matter the cost. The crowd broke into mixed cries, some relief, some dread. Aaron bowed his head slightly. The decision was made. Humanity's choice was not to fight blindly, but to trust in a chance of peace. Yet he knew it was only the beginning. Speaking the storm would not be simple, and the guardians were already awake. As the hall emptied, Joran lingered, his eyes locked on Aaron. If you are hiding anything, he said in a low voice, it will come out soon. Secrets do not survive storms. Aaron said nothing. He stepped back into the rain, the cold drops washing over him. Somewhere beyond the walls, the guardians moved through the sea. Somewhere in his workshop, Myra waited for him. The colony had chosen a path. Now Aaron had to lead them through it, whether they trusted him or not. The night was the darkest yet. The storm struck with a force that shook the walls of the colony. Lightning split the sky in endless flashes, and thunder rolled so deeply that it rattled the ground. The guardians had risen fully now. Their massive shapes could be seen faintly on the horizon when the lightning revealed them, towers of metal moving slowly toward the land. Inside his workshop, Aaron worked without pause. Wires and screens glowed under his tired hands. Myra stood beside him, her markings bright, guiding him as he tried to build a connection strong enough to speak into the storm. The storm listens, Myra said softly. But it does not wait. If we delay, the guardians will reach the walls, and then it will be too late. Aaron nodded, sweat running down his face. He had convinced the council to give him resources, but their trust was thin. Guards stood outside, ready to drag him away if he failed. And still, Joran's suspicious words echoed in his mind, secrets do not survive storms. At last, the machine was ready. A tall antenna extended above the workshop roof, linked to Aaron's console. With Myra's help, he had turned it into something more than a scanner. It was a voice. A way to answer the echoes in the rain. The console buzzed as the storm's patterns flowed across the screen. Lines of strange symbols appeared, repeating in steady rhythm. Aaron pressed the keys, guided by Myra's translations. His hands shook, but he entered the response carefully, as if speaking into the heart of the sky. For a moment, nothing happened. The rain continued, thunder roaring. Then, slowly, the storm shifted. The rhythm of lightning changed. The guardians paused in their march, their glowing lights flickering in reply. It works, Myra whispered, her voice full of awe. They hear you. Aaron felt his chest tighten. What do I say? Myra looked at him with solemn eyes. Tell them we are not enemies. Tell them humanity belongs, not as conquerors, but as keepers. Speak with courage, for they will hear your heart as much as your words. Aaron leaned forward, typing the translated signals. We are not intruders. We are settlers, seeking life, seeking peace. We do not wish to destroy what is here. We wish to protect it, to live beside it. The antenna hummed as the message carried into the storm. For long minutes, there was no reply. The guardians stood unmoving in the sea, their towering forms lit only by lightning. Fear pressed heavy in Aaron's chest. What if they rejected him? What if Myra had been wrong? Then, slowly, the storm calmed. The thunder grew softer. The rain thinned. On the horizon, the guardians' lights shifted from sharp and cold to soft and steady. Their massive heads turned away from the land, back toward the ocean's depths. "They accept," Myra said, her voice trembling with relief. They returned to their rest. Aaron leaned back in his chair, weak with exhaustion. Outside, the people of the colony poured from their homes, staring in wonder as the storm eased at last. For the first time in days, the clouds began to break, showing pale light behind them. The council arrived at the workshop soon after. Darren stepped inside, his face unreadable. "The storm weakens. The Guardians retreat. You succeeded." Aaron nodded quietly. He did not boast. He knew the danger had only passed because of Myra's help, though he could not speak her name aloud. Mara looked at him carefully. "You saved us, Aaron. Yet questions remain. How did you know the language of storms? How did you calm them?" Aaron met her gaze, steady this time. "By listening," he said simply. "By believing the storm was more than just noise. That was enough." They studied him for a long moment, but no one pressed further. The people outside were cheering, grateful for their survival. The council could not risk taking away their hope with more doubt. When the hall was clear again, Aaron returned to Myra. She stood by the window, watching the sky as the rain slowly faded. For the first time since she arrived, her expression softened into something close to peace. "You did well," she said. "The Guardians will sleep again. But remember, they are not gone. One day, they may wake once more." Aaron stepped beside her, watching as the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds. The storm's voice was silent now, but he could still feel its memory, carried in every drop of water. "Then when that day comes," he said quietly, "humanity will be ready. We'll be more than settlers. We'll be guardians too." Myra's glowing lines shimmered in agreement. The sun rose slowly, golden light spilling across the drenched land. The colony, battered but unbroken, breathed a sigh of relief. For the first time in days, children laughed as they splashed in the shallow puddles, and farmers looked at their fields with cautious hope. Rain had brought fear, but it had also brought truth. And as dawn spread across the horizon, Aaron knew the storms had changed everything. Humanity had faced the unknown, and instead of being erased, they had been accepted. The secrets of the rainy nights were no longer hidden. They were part of the colony's story now, a reminder that survival came not from weapons or walls, but from listening, trusting, and daring to believe in something greater. The rain had ended. The future had begun.